Let's talk in this video about clinical trials. You see, before a drug reaches to a pharmacy, it should pass through a number of phases to ensure safety for humans. Well, that is a clinical trial is one. Clinical trial has a number of phases, phase 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In this series of videos, I will talk about these phases in a very detail. And you might wonder why it fetch a very stringent measure in drug discovery. You see, that's why normal drug discovery processes will take years, maybe 10 years, 12 years, but nowadays the good thing is with advent of computational methods, it has really shortened that time, but earlier days it will take like 10, 12 years. The big point is to ensure safety. Is the drug safe? That's the first thing we need to prove. When we study drugs in vitro, the way I talked, the first thing we need to check is that drug still safe to the cell lines, to the human cell lines? Because we are culturing the virus cells in a human cell line. Because, you know, viruses multiply in human cells. So we need to prove first that whether these drugs you have, whether the new drug you are really anticipating, before it kills the virus, you should prove that it is safe for the cell line. That is what we call a cytotoxicity study. Again, when you come to animal study, the first thing you need to do is to check for safety of your product on an animal. Is the drug really toxic to an animal? Will it cause mortality? That is why, as I said, if this drug or if your plant extract or mitishamba, whatsoever potential drug you are prompting, is going to kill your lab animals, that is most likely the end of your work, in quotation. Because a potential drug should be safe. Okay, let's come even before we reach days. What about chronic toxicity? What if this drug could cause a liver damage? What if it causes a damage on the kidney? You see? What if it causes a damage on the brain? That is why when we study the drug again in an in vivo study, we try to see the chronic toxic effect, the chronic effect of the drug. What does it mean by the word chronic? When the drug is given in multiple doses for a number of days. The same story is true. You know, some chronic medicines are taken for years in humans. So you need now to bring that down to lab animals. And then we try to give this extract or this potential drug for maybe 14 days, 28 days, or maybe for 3 months to see the chronic toxicity of this potential drug. Why? To prove that this potential drug is safe. So in drug discovery research, the first at the heart of it is safety. Is it safe? Before effectiveness, before it cures the disease, the question is it safe? The second point is, will it be able again to cure the illness? Now, once you proved all that in preclinical study. The preclinical studies are the in vitro, the in vivo studies, those you do in computational. Now those are all preclinical. Now you bring it to clinical. In clinical trial, you are going to administer this drug for the first time to humans. Again, in this journey, I will talk in detail about each of them in the next video. The first thing is, again, you try to prove, is it again safe to those healthy volunteers? Before you try to prove it, oh, this drug can treat illness. Before that conclusion, we need to say that the drug is safe. So, in drug discovery journey, the big question is to ensure safety of medicines. Phase 1 clinical trial tries to answer the question, is the medicine safe? You know, a drug can work perfectly in animals in an in vivo study, but it might fail when it comes to humans because of many reasons of toxicity. So phase 1 trial basically focuses on safety, and it's usually done on between 20 to 100 healthy volunteers. And in this study, scientists really try to investigate the side effect of a drug, if there any side effect, and also what will be the safe dose range for that specific medicine. They try to study how the body really absorbs the drug, how the body tries to excrete the drug, or the elimination will be studied. Okay, so this phase 1 study gives a basic data on safety of the drug. Then if the drug is not safe, then that most likely will be the end of the study. And so phase 1 clinical trial is again a very important study in the drug discovery journey. Once we prove safety of the drug in phase 1 clinical trial, now in phase 2 we confirm, will this safe drug be able to treat the illness? So in this study, it involves taking like 100 to 300 patients with a certain disease, and you administer now that potential drug to see whether this drug is able to treat the illness or not. And also at the same time, you try to document what possible side effects or unwanted effects should be seen. So phase 1 is to confirm safety. Phase 2 is to confirm whether the drug is working or not. In phase 2, still a number of drugs could fail in phase 2. They may be safe in phase 1, no toxicity, but in phase 2, maybe the drugs may not be able to show a response, may not treat the illness. That is important. So safety. Number 2 is efficacy. Phase 3 clinical trial is one of the most expensive and also a critical phase, because unlike the earlier phases, this one involves now the study in thousands of population or thousands of patients. Here the drug is compared to an existing treatment or placebo. Here scientists try to confirm efficacy and also safety, and also now long-term side effects. Okay, and basically this data will be now sent to regulators for purpose of approval, and this is very important step. Most drugs, if they pass this phase 3, then they could be declared now the drug is approved and the drug can be in the market. So keep the story: a preclinical trial, a preclinical study, then goes to phase 1 on few healthy volunteers to check whether the drug is safe or not. Then come to phase 2, you check efficacy in patients. In phase 1, there were healthy volunteers, few in number, but in phase 2, a big number, between 100 to 300. Now those patients with the illness now go to phase 3. It will be administered to thousands of patients. Now in this time, you try to see everything holistically: safety, efficacy, any side effects, and also long-term safety of the medicine will be evaluated. And the phase 3 data is very crucial, and it will be sent to different regulators, including the FDA and other regulators which are keen on the same. And finally, the drug gets into the market. What an interesting journey.